inshallah, and dinner after Maghrib. And for those people for whom in childhood we used to hear a story that there was a father and a son and a donkey, and they were going somewhere and they were walking and the donkey was going with them. By the way, Nizam bhai is serving tea. If somebody wants to, please get tea from him. So they were walking and the donkey was also walking with them, and people looked at him and said that how stupid they are. They have a right but they are not using it. So then the father mounted the donkey and the son was walking. So people started saying that why is the father so cruel? He is riding himself and making the son walk. So listening to this, the father had the son mount the donkey. So people started saying that how insolent this child is, that he's riding himself, he's young and he's riding himself, and the father is walking, he's making the father walk. So both of them mounted the donkey. Then people saw and said how cruel they are, that both of them are riding the donkey and not giving the donkey any rest, burdening it beyond its capacity. So ultimately they started walking and carried the donkey over themselves. So anyway, some people will always have, some will have to adjust. So if it's too late for you for dinner, then I suggest that having tea and having snacks before you leave. Jazakallah khaira. Last time we started, the other thing is that inshallah Eid Salah will be here at 8:15 am, so try to be on time. Every year there is one or two families who are late, and then I am not going to apologize this time. We are going to start at 8:15 inshallah sharp. Inshallah, may Allah strengthen us and may Allah enable us inshallah. Aisa na ho कि मैं late हो जाऊँ बहरहाल. The other thing is that inshallah Saturday our friends of Darul Iman families have arranged some food and dinner, and we have also arranged a program for children. It is my wish that we have a specific program for children here, at least monthly, preferably weekly, so that children can also get a friendly, fun Islamic environment, stories and stuff. We are experimenting inshallah. Our Sheikh Abdullah Mahmood is here, mashallah. He is very skilled with children, mashallah. He has a lot of experience. When he was in Washington, before he moved to he was in medicine when he came, but when he moved to Washington, he worked on children a lot. So mashallah, he has a way with children. So inshallah he is going to conduct that program Saturday inshallah after Asr, not tomorrow, the next Saturday, and then we'll have dinner after Maghrib. Last time we started the book of Hajj, and there's two things that we need to cover inshallah, two subjects. One is the individual ahadith about the individual contents of Hajj. For example, the wuquf of Arafat, where did the Prophet ﷺ, what is the rulings about where should ihram be put on, what is the rulings of tawaf and sa'i and qurbani and stuff. And then there's other narration of the whole Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ. This hadith inshallah, so today we'll briefly, superficially inshallah, narrate the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ. And then from inshallah future majalis, yes, next week we will not have majlis, we'll just have the program on Saturday inshallah. So after that inshallah, if life and tawfiq permit, we'll inshallah read the individual hadith about the individual contents of Hajj. Today the intention is to cover the Hajj of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as much as possible inshallah. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we all know that Makkah came under the rule of Islam in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the 8th year after the migration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the 9th year, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not go for Hajj himself, but sent Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu and 300 people from Medina, and Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu was made the leader of Hajj that year. So that is the first Hajj of Islam after Makkah had come under the rule of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu to cleanse Makkah and of especially Hajj of all the rituals, all the ways of the previous times, the days of ignorance. And as the Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu anh had departed, he had reached Makkah, the ayat of Bara'ah, the ayat in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasool sallallahu alayhi wasallam are free of any pacts and any treaties that they may have made with kuffar. Those ayat came in Medina, so the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam sent Ali radiallahu anh with those ayat to recite those ayat to the people at the time of Hajj. So when Ali radiallahu anh reached there, it is written in narration that Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu anh asked him that, have you come as an Amir or as a Ma'mur? Have you come as a leader yourself? Because of course he was a relative of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and a very noteworthy sahabi of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu anh asked him that, have you come as an Amir or a Ma'mur? And Hazrat Ali radiallahu anh at that time also said that I have come as a Ma'mur. I have not come as a leader. You are the leader of Hajj. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has given you the leadership. I have only come to narrate the ayat, recite the ayat of Bara'ah. And since Ali radiallahu anh was part of the member of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's family, that is why it was wise to send Ali radiallahu anh, and he recited those ayat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasool sallallahu alaihi wasallam are announcing their exit from all the treaties that have been made. And if there is a certain duration to any of the specific treaties, then after those durations are complete, then those treaties will not be renewed. So this was allowing time for the kuffar to adjust accordingly. Hazrat Siddiq radiallahu anh also announced that now Kaaba will not be used for doing tawaf without clothing, which was the way of the ignorant people back in the day. And he also cleansed the Hajj of all shirk. Then in the 10th Hijri, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam announced way earlier that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is himself planning to do Hajj. So people from across the Arab, they started to come to Medina to accompany the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his Hajj. And 25th Zul-Qa'dah, if I remember correctly, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam started from Medina. And the way the journey of Hajj is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to cover most of it in a state of ihram. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stopped at Zul Hulayfa, which is a station very close to Medina, right outside Medina. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stayed there, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam put on the ihram. And as soon as he put on, he prayed 2 rakat, which is the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But the ruling is that if before putting on the ihram, if somebody only does wuzu and puts on the ihram, then that's also fine. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed 2 rakat and then said talbiyah, Allahu labbaik Allahumma labbaik la sharika laka labbaik innal hamda wan ni'mata laka wal mulk la sharika lak. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited it loudly, and the Sahaba around him also recited it loudly. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came outside. There's another narration where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is said to have said this talbiyah for the first time when he mounted his qaswa, his she camel. As she stood, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited this talbiyah. But the combination of all these narrations is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam first said it when he finished his 2 rakat. Then the second time he said it when the she camel rose. And the third time there is a station of Baida, a short walk from Zul Hulayfa where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam put on the ihram. There is this station of Baida. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said loudly talbiyah. And also there is a narration that we'll read. The Prophet ﷺ said that Jibreel alayhi salam has come to me and said that I should ask my people that they should say talbiyah loudly. Allahu Akbar, labbaik Allahumma labbaik la sharika laka labbaik. So the Sahaba also started saying it loudly. And then the Prophet ﷺ moved towards Makkah. The Prophet ﷺ had taken animals for sacrifice, which is done after Hajj. When somebody is traveling, they don't do their sacrifice, the regular sacrifice of Eid al-Adha. That is taken away from them for a traveler. When somebody is traveling for Hajj, then the only sacrifice that they do is the sacrifice of Hajj. So the Prophet ﷺ had taken animals, and in narration said I think 67 or 63 camels from Medina with him. And then he went straight to the Baytullah Sharif, the Makkah, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the Kaaba. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first narration here is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did the istilam of Hajrat Aswad, the black stone. The Prophet ﷺ did istilam of it, which is that the Prophet ﷺ kissed it, put his hands on it and kissed the black stone. Hakim ibn Washir Thani rahmatullahi alayhi has written that to do the istilam of the Khana Kaaba, that is not masnoon. Masnoon is to do the istilam of Hajr Aswad. Hajr Aswad, the black stone. And it is probable that the Prophet ﷺ saw a special tajalli of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even more so than the Kaaba on Hajr Aswad, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ kissed it. The stone itself does not have importance beyond it that the Prophet ﷺ kissed it. And this is mentioned by Hazrat Umar radiallahu anh as well, that Hazrat Umar radiallahu anh later on addressed after the Prophet ﷺ, when he was the Amirul Mu'mineen, when he was kissing the Hajr Aswad, he said that if I had not seen the Prophet ﷺ do it, I would not have kissed you. You are only a stone. So it is because the Prophet ﷺ kissed it, we also, it is a sunnah to kiss it. But nowadays, as I mentioned again and again, it's practically impossible without hurting anybody that you go reach the Hajr Aswad. So therefore our ulama say that do not trouble people. Hurting people is haram. Kissing the actual Hajr Aswad is mustahab. So therefore just do it from farther away. The Prophet ﷺ has also done istilam from farther away as well, not actual contact with the Hajr Aswad. Then the Prophet ﷺ started the tawaf. The first 3 rounds the Prophet ﷺ did ramal, which is with shoulders raised, a walk that shows strength. The Prophet ﷺ did ramal in the first 3 rounds of tawaf, and in the later 4 the Prophet ﷺ walked normally. Then the Prophet ﷺ recited this ayah, وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلَّى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us to make the station of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam a place of prayer. So the Prophet ﷺ went to that stone which we mentioned about I think last time or time before last, that stone where Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam stood and constructed the Kaaba. The Prophet ﷺ prayed 2 rakat there. And in those 2 rakat, the Prophet ﷺ is known to have recited Qul Ya Ayyuhal Kafirun and Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Then the Prophet ﷺ moved from that place to the Mount Safa. Nowadays, it's all in the building. So it's basically the Mount Safa. Basically, you just follow the signs to Mount Safa, and the mount itself is barely visible on only 2 or 3 floors, I think, 2 floors, I think. On the top floor, I think the Mount Safa is not either visible either. But I think on the basement level and the first level, Mount Safa is still visible, part of that which has been preserved. The Prophet ﷺ reached there and faced the Kaaba. First the Prophet ﷺ recited Inna Safa wal Marwata min sha'airillah, that ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded to do sa'i. Sa'i literally means to run or to walk. And the Prophet ﷺ started his sa'i from Safa. So that ayah he recited, and he said that I start my sa'i from Safa, that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in this ayah first, the Mount Safa. So the sunnah is to start, it's actually required to start sa'i from Safa. The Prophet ﷺ walked up to Safa to such a point where he was able to see the Kaaba. So today as well, people are not very careful. They just walk over just a little. So it's kind of a ramp now. People just slightly walk it and they did not actually look at the Kaaba. It's better to actually reach up so high up the ramp that you actually can see the Kaaba, face the Kaaba. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, La ilaha illallah wahdah la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamd wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. La ilaha illallah wahdah, anjaza wa'dah wa nasara abdah wa hazama al-ahzaba wahdah. Which essentially means that there is none worthy of worship, no God except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, no partners to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For him is the kingdom and for him is the praise, and he is all powerful over everything. There is no one worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anjaza wa'dah wa nasara abdah wa hazama al-ahzaba wahdah. Allah fulfilled his promise that Allah is going to give the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam rule and Islam elevation over all the Arab. And he nasara abdah, his slave alone, his one slave, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did his nusrat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped him and strengthened him. Wa hazama al-ahzaba wahdah, and Allah alone defeated all the armies of kufr. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, after saying these kalimat 3 times, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua, and then he descended from the Mount Safa and walked towards the Marwa. And as you descend from the Mount Safa, when the Prophet ﷺ reached the lowest point between the two mountains, the Prophet ﷺ ran a little, speed walked. And then after he came above from the lowest part, he walked his normal walk. And then he did the same thing on Marwa, the Mount Marwa, the exact same thing that he did on the Mount Safa. And then this is how the Prophet ﷺ completed 7 rounds. From Safa to Marwa is 1, then Marwa to Safa is 2, so and so forth. He completed 7 rounds and ended at Marwa. Then the Prophet ﷺ addressed the Sahaba, and he said that if this had come to my mind before, I would have told you that this tawaf and this sa'i would constitute our umrah. If I had not brought animals from Medina, which I have to sacrifice after Hajj, because when you sacrifice, then you open your ihram, come out of the state of ihram. So if I had not brought those animals, I would have counted this as my umrah and opened the ihram, and then put on a separate ihram for Hajj. So essentially there's 3 kinds of Hajj. 3 kinds of Hajj generally our fuqaha explain: Hajj tamattu', Hajj qiran, and Hajj ifrad. Ifrad is when a person puts on an ihram and makes the intention only for the Hajj. Tamattu' is that a person puts on the ihram for umrah. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ is advising, that if I had not brought animals, I would have just done the umrah, opened up the ihram, and then put on a separate ihram for Hajj. So this would have been tamattu'. But what actually the Prophet ﷺ ended up doing was Hajj qiran, which is that when you are putting on the ihram, you make the niyat of umrah and Hajj both. And with the same ihram, you do not open that ihram until you do not come out until you are done with your Hajj completely. The qurbani of the Hajj is done. So according to Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi, the most preferable way of doing Hajj is Hajj tamattu'. Because in this narration it is written that the Prophet ﷺ actually said to the Sahaba that those of you who have not brought animals, they should come out of their state of ihram, trim their hair or shave their hair and come out of the state of ihram. This will be considered an umrah, and then they can put on a separate ihram for Hajj. But niyat is very important. If somebody has made the niyat to do Hajj in one go, which is actually hard, then they should do so. The Prophet ﷺ ended up doing that. But since he's saying that if I had not brought animals, I would have done tamattu', which is separate umrah and Hajj. Therefore, the ruling of Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhi is that tamattu' is the best way of doing Hajj, the most preferable. And this is what some of the Sahaba did, that they came out of the state of ihram. It is written in narrations that they trimmed their hair because they wanted to shave it after Hajj, so just trimmed after Umrah. And the Prophet ﷺ was also particularly asked, Suraqa ibn Malik radiyallahu anh, he said, Ya Rasulullah, li'amina hadha am li abadin? Is this only for this year? Is this ruling? Or is this forever? فشبك رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أصابعه واحدة في الأخرى وقال دخلت العمرة في الحج لا بل لأبد أبد. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم combined his fingers and said that Umrah and Hajj have become basically entered each other for ever and ever. And then there is a narration here that Sayyidah Fatima radiallahu anha, so in this journey almost 130,000 Sahaba was with the Prophet ﷺ. All the 9 Azwaj of the Prophet ﷺ was with the Prophet ﷺ, and also Sayyidah Fatima was also there. So the Prophet ﷺ, Ali radiallahu anh was coming from Yemen. When the Prophet ﷺ was starting from Medina, in the Ramadan of that, so the Prophet ﷺ started in Ziqat, 25th Ziqat, in the Ramadan of that year, the Prophet ﷺ had sent Ali towards Yemen for calling them towards Islam, and he had a little fight, and then people accepted Islam. So he was bringing some animals for the Prophet ﷺ from Yemen, and he met the Prophet ﷺ in Makkah. So when he reached Makkah, he saw Sayyidah Fatima Zahra radiallahu anha, that she had come out of the state of ihram, and she had also she was she had used surma, antimony, and she was wearing colorful clothing. So Hazrat Ali radiallahu anh was very disturbed by this, that how could you come out of the ihram before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And she said that I did it. My father sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us to do it, so I did it. So then they went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked her that this is about Hazrat Ali radiallahu anh, that for Hazrat Ali radiallahu anh, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that what kind of intention did you make? So what is the intention that you made? So he said that I made the intention, Allahumma inni uhilla bima ahalla bihi Rasuluka sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah, I put ihram, the ihram of that same thing that your Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is putting on the ihram for. So he was basically, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that since you did the same niyat as me, you cannot take off the ihram, and you will take off ihram after Hajj. So he had brought 37 camels, and 63 the Prophet ﷺ took with him from Medina. Anyway, there was a very small number of Sahaba who actually trimmed their hair at that time and came out of ihram. Then when it was Yawm Tarwiyah, which is the 8th of Zil Hajj, the people who had taken off the ihram, they put on the ihram again. The Prophet ﷺ and most of the Sahaba were already in ihram, and they went towards Mina. The Prophet ﷺ rode his she camel towards Mina. So Makkah is right here. Mina is a little, if I know correct, and I may be wrong on this, but Mina is actually closer to Makkah. Mina is within the boundaries of Haram. So Mina is a little to the north, and if I know correct, if I'm recalling correctly, Mina is a little to the north and to the east of Makkah, if I remember correct. And Arafat is outside of the boundaries of Haram. Mina is within the boundary. So first the Hujjaj go to Mina on the 8th. The Prophet ﷺ prayed his Fajr, and after Fajr the Prophet ﷺ went to Mina. And in Mina the Prophet ﷺ prayed Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha and Fajr on their own time. So the Prophet ﷺ reached there before Zuhr, prayed Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha and the Fajr of the next day in Mina. Then the Prophet ﷺ and the Hujjaj went to Arafat, which is the major rukn or the part of Hajj. And there the Prophet ﷺ commanded beforehand that my tent should be placed after or close to the Masjid Nimra. So at that time there was no masajid there. Now they have made masajid there. Masjid Khaif in Mina, where the Prophet ﷺ stayed, and Masjid Nimra in Arafat. At that time it is written in books that there was Quraysh, those people, because of their pride and the pride that they took in the fact that we are the caretakers of the Baytullah Sharif, even in the days of Hajj they considered something inferior and below their station to go outside of the boundaries of Haram. All other people would stay outside the boundaries of Haram in Arafat, but Quraysh will stay right inside the boundaries of Haram. So the Prophet ﷺ beforehand commanded that my tent should be placed outside of the boundaries of Haram where Nimra is. And thus the Prophet ﷺ cleared this, that Qurayshi or non-Qurayshi, taking care of the Hujjaj, the Baytullah or not, if somebody is doing Hajj, then their wuquf will not be valid until they actually go outside of the boundary of Haram. And the technical boundary of Arafat actually starts from outside the boundary of Haram. So if somebody has to do Hajj and the Rukn Azam of Hajj properly, then they have to be outside the boundary of Haram in the Arafat. And that's where the Prophet ﷺ did his wuquf. So about wuquf, there is something to remember inshallah, which is میں کوئی غلطی کروں تو بتا دیجیے گا. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam prayed Zuhr. So after the Fajr of praying Fajr in Mina, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went outside of the boundaries of Haram into Arafat. That's where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stayed. When the Zuhr time came, in the leadership of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba prayed Zuhr and Asr together. 2 rakat of Zuhr, 2 rakat of Asr. This is the only time where it is permissible to read 2 salat together, only under the leadership of the Amir of the Hajj. If the Amir of the Hajj is leading the prayer and we are praying behind them, then it is allowed that we can pray in Arafat Zuhr and Asr together, 2 rakat of Zuhr, 2 rakat of Asr. And what used to happen back in the day, 5 or 6 years ago, that the government of Saudi, they appoint the Amir of Hajj. So they would appoint an Amir of Hajj who would be a resident of Makkah, and during Hajj he would not be a traveler, but still he would lead 2 rakat and 2 rakat, because if you are a traveler you pray 2 rakat Zuhr and 2 rakat Asr, but him being a resident of Makkah still led the Hujjaj and prayed 2 rakat and 2 rakat. And a alim from Pakistan, I am forgetting his name, either Mufti Muhammad Rafi Sahab Usmani rahmatullahi alayhi, I think it is about him, that he said when he went in the time of King Abdullah, he said to King Abdullah that the responsibility of 2 missed rakat of Zuhr and 2 missed rakat of Asr of all the Hujjaj is upon your shoulders, because you appoint the Amir Hajj right from that area. So listening to that, he then started appointing Amir Hajj from Riyadh. So now the Amir Hajj is also traveling. He is also a traveler. So if we pray behind the Amir Hajj, the leader of Hajj, then we are allowed to pray Zuhr and Asr. If we are praying in our own tents, if we are not following the Jamaat, or if we miss the Jamaat, then we have to pray 2 rakat Zuhr in Zuhr's time and 2 rakat Asr in Asr time. Then the wuquf continues, and we'll read detail about the wuquf and the khutbah and everything inshallah in the future majalis. The timeline is that the Prophet ﷺ waited until Maghrib time started, and after Maghrib time started, the sun came down and even the redness disappeared. The Prophet ﷺ did not pray Maghrib in Arafat. He went towards Muzdalifah, which is a third ground. And the Prophet ﷺ went to Muzdalifah, and there reaching Muzdalifah, the Prophet ﷺ read Maghrib and Isha. Maghrib and Isha the Prophet ﷺ read in Muzdalifah. In Muzdalifah there was no tent. The Prophet ﷺ stayed there after Isha up to the sun came out, and up to Ishraq time basically. And the Prophet ﷺ then left Muzdalifah. That night the Prophet ﷺ is not reported to have even prayed any tahajjud or any other nawafil. He just lied down in Muzdalifah, and after Isha he lied down all night under the open sky. And then at the Ishraq time basically, the next day the Prophet ﷺ moved back to Mina, and after Zawal, after the Zuhr time started, the Prophet ﷺ pelted the shaitan, the jamrat which we call Rami jamrat. The Prophet ﷺ pelted the shaitan with little small pebbles which can be thrown based like this. The Prophet ﷺ pelted the shaitan. So on each day the Prophet ﷺ has allowed us, it is allowed in fiqh that the Prophet ﷺ did it after Zawal. So if somebody does it before Zawal, their Rami is not done. It has to be done after Zawal. Sometimes according to the pressure of the environment, people try to do it before Zawal. If somebody does it before Zawal, they have to give dam. After Zawal, this Rami Jamrat is done, and then the best way is to stay in Mina, in the tent. That's the Sunnah way, that's the most preferable way. And then do tawaf again. And then for the next 2 days or 1 day, depending on your stay, you have to, if you stay up to Zawal time, then you have to do this Rami again. So this is briefly the Hajj of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The actual address of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, we'll inshallah read in the future majalis. But this is the brief summary of the Hajj of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam finally then went back to Medina after telling the people clearly what is Hajj and cleansing the Hajj of all the things of any association with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any associate gods, any idols, anything, any ways of shirk, the Prophet ﷺ cleansed the Hajj of those. Sorry, I forgot about the Qurbani. So after his Rami, Jamrat, the Prophet ﷺ sacrificed the animals, 63 that the Prophet ﷺ had brought himself from Medina, and then other 37 that had Ali radiallahu anhu had brought. And then the head of the Prophet ﷺ was also shaved, and the hair were given to Abu Talha Ansari radiallahu anhu, which the Prophet ﷺ commanded that you distributed among the people.